Where to begin? Let's go back over 20 years. Actually, let's go back another 13 years, plus the 21. So that would be 1989. And I hadn't even heard of diabetes before. It was not in my vocabulary. I didn't have any family members that were diabetic, not even type 2 that I knew of, and I have a pretty big family. So why 1989? Thank you. Just picking some stuff up from Walgreens. My second home, seems like. So 1989, my wife, future wife, was 7 years old, and she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I wouldn't know of her for another 11 years. I'm sure at some point she'll tell her story on here in more detail. We got married in 2001, summer 2001. The following year, and we had one good year where I was just perfectly healthy. I mean, my whole life I've been healthy. Now, I can't stand the taste of water, the flavor of water, bottle, tap, whatever. Now, when I was a kid, I used to drink water right out of a hose. And on a hot summer day, it was the best tasting thing ever. But later on, I don't know what the deal was. Even to this day, I can't stand the flavor or the taste of water. But for some reason, in the summer of 2002, I thought that I had stumbled across the holy grail of bottled water. And it was this place that was over a couple 100 miles away from where we lived. And I just thought their water was the best tasting water that I'd ever had. I couldn't get enough of it. We would take our 5-gallon jugs, drive 200 miles, and fill up those jugs. And I was going through jugs like crazy because it tasted so good. Like 5 gallons of water in a couple of days. That much water. And it was crazy the amount of water I was going through. And as soon as I was done taking a drink of water, I was thirsty again. And of course, when you drink that much water, what else do? You urinate. And I was urinating all the time. But to me, I was thinking, hey, this makes sense. And of course it makes sense, right? I'm drinking all that water, I'm gonna have to go pee. I mean, that just made sense. I was enjoying water for the first time in my life. But I was drinking all that water and I was beginning to lose weight, lots of weight. For the most part, other than that, I was feeling okay. I just kept on losing more and more weight. I was getting skinnier and skinnier. And my wife and I just attributed it to the water I was drinking, and we were eating healthier. I just gotten a grill. We were doing a lot of grilling, and it didn't seem all that alarming to me anyways. We get to Christmas Day 2002, and we go to my parents' house for Christmas morning. My mom had made cinnamon rolls, homemade cinnamon rolls, and hot chocolate. And of course I'm going to partake because my mom's cinnamon rolls are one of the best treasures of this world. And I ate that, and within an hour or two, I had the most excruciating pain in my stomach. My stomach was in knots, and I had never felt anything like that before. It was crazy. So I was laying down in my sister's room and just trying to, figure out what's going on. It's Christmas Day. Not much I could do other than probably go to the emergency room if it was that bad. We went home and I laid down, and I was nauseous and I was not feeling great. And I went into the bathroom and I vomited, and oh my gosh, it felt so much better. My mother told my wife, hey, you need to take him to the doctor. He needs to go see a doctor because this is not normal. He's losing all this weight. He's thirsty. Something's not right. So, and this has been going on for months that I was drinking that much water. So, we made an appointment and got in to see the doctor on the day after Christmas. I don't know how that was. I don't know if we called in the morning and got in or what, but made an appointment to my just regular family doctor, and me and my wife went in. Of course, prior to going to it, because I think the appointment was after lunchtime, we popped into McDonald's to have lunch, and I had a Big Mac and a large fry and a large Coke, not Diet Coke, just a regular Coke or Dr. Pepper. And I went to the appointment, and I was feeling fine. I had thrown up the night before, and I thought it was just, I had eaten something bad or something, was in me that needed to get out, and it finally was, and I was feeling great. But I, get into the doctor's office and in the room, and he steps in, and he's looking at me, and he said, "Take off your shirt." So I took off my shirt, and he gets close to me, and he just goes, just takes a big whiff, and he goes, "You smell fruity." And I go, "What? I smell fruity? What do you mean?" He goes, "You need to go to the emergency room right now. You have diabetes." And my wife goes, "What?" Because she had been living with it for, 12 years? And she couldn't even believe it. Well, what the heck? Her husband now? Type 1 diabetic? Really? My wife and I went to the emergency room and got checked in and was waiting there for I don't know how long. Finally got called up to see a triage nurse to see what was going on with me. So primary care doctor told me to come over to the emergency room, says I have diabetes and I need to get looked at. She checks my blood and it just says high. It wouldn't even read on her meter. They get a different meter that's supposed to be able to read higher, and it still wouldn't read. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was over 500. And it's the same amount. I mean, I'm supposed to be at like 120. It would be a normal thing. Probably 180 after the McDonald's that I had eaten for lunch. But I got put right back into the waiting area, and I was just sitting there for hours. And I go, this is crazy. Like, I felt fine. I just wanted to go home. It was the day after Christmas. I don't know. I didn't want to be waiting in that emergency room anymore. But I did, and I got back in there, and they rushed me up to the ICU and hooked me up to all kinds of stuff, giving me drips of things. And at this point, everything became kind of like more hazy to me. I don't remember much of anything. I was very tired. They were giving me medicine. I remember them giving me potassium in my IV that just burned like the dickens. And I didn't know it at the time, but they were talking to my wife about, they're having her sign paperwork like I was dying, or they couldn't believe it had gone that long without, going to the doctor or getting checked out or figuring out what was going on. But, her being a type 1 diabetic, and she didn't see the signs and didn't even think about it. It was crazy. I didn't even think about it. When I got admitted and I was in the ICU, I was in that bed in the ICU, and they have little things that tell you what the patient's weight is. And my wife said that at the lowest, I'm 6 foot tall, and at the lowest I was 118 pounds. And I was in the ICU for 5 days. And I didn't eat one speck of food the whole time I was in the ICU. Everything that I was getting was through my IV, and that it was just like water. It was the only thing that I was getting through an IV. No drinks. I didn't get out of that bed for 5 days until they could get my blood sugar under control. And while I was in there, the whole time to keep on telling my wife, hey, he's probably not going to make it. He's probably not going to make it. But slowly I got better. I never, left the ICU and went to a different, just regular room. But, they would have dietitians come in and other people come in and check on me. But I don't know, it didn't seem like, once I was feeling better and my blood sugar was brought down, it didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. Like, I had been living with it for a few years now with my wife, and I knew, what all of the everything that went along with type 1 diabetes, and it didn't seem like a big deal like it would have been for other people, someone that it was brand new to their life. But it seems like, well, if my wife can do it, I can do it. It didn't seem like that was going to be that big of a deal to me. I remember a dietitian coming in, and I mean, I love, drinking soda, regular soda. I loved it. I loved Pepsi. A dietitian came in and she goes, okay, well, you're going to have to give up soda. And I go, are you crazy? I can't give up soda. Like, I love soda. And she goes, well, you can't drink soda anymore. And I'm going, this is crazy. I can't. What do you mean I can't drink soda? So when I finally got discharged from the hospital, they said that I could eat 30 carbs was what they wanted me to eat a day. And, they gave me all my prescriptions to go fill. I get 2 different kinds of insulin and syringes and a meter and all the stuff that, my wife had, at home, but I needed my own. I'm going to be using twice as much of it now. So before, we went and picked up some scripture. I don't even know. I think I had got out of the hospital and I was hungry. I hadn't eaten for 5 days. I was starving. So we went to Taco Bell. I had gotten, I don't know what I got, but I do remember that I had gotten myself a Diet Pepsi. And it was the first time I'd ever drinking a diet soda. I took 1 sip of it and I just threw it in the trash. I said, that's the most disgusting thing that I've ever drank in my entire life. And I was just, of all things, other than having type 1 diabetes and all the rest of my life, I would have type 1 diabetes and dealing with it. I was upset that I could not have a regular soda. That was the end of it for me right there. That was the end of my life right there, not being able to have soda. But I guess I got over that, and I drink diet soda now, and there's no, I've gotten used to it and actually prefer diet soda now over regular soda. And they sent me home with a limit of 30 carbs, and I go, this is insane. I like 30 carbs. And by dinner time, I was out of carbs, and I remember I was starving, and I'm having like a can of tuna fish on a piece of lettuce because there's no carbs in that. And I was hungry. I finally got in to see an endocrinologist, my wife's endocrinologist, and he was, one of the best doctors that we have ever had. I went in to see him and he goes, man, you're just, skin and bones. I want you to eat whatever you want. If you want to go have a cheeseburger, a double cheeseburger and french fries and, have whatever you want, just take insulin for it. And that was just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't, that was the best doctor's advice that I could have used right then. Because I was 118 pounds was the lowest I was at. I needed to put some weight on. So I did not drink regular soda, but I did start drinking diet soda, and he really helped me understand my diabetes and manage it better. And because when you're at a hospital, for the most part, most doctors and nurses in the hospital don't know jack about type 1 diabetes. They treat you like a type 2 diabetic. They look at everything you eat as if it has sugar or carbs in it as like it's gonna kill you. They just don't understand it. It's like, it's so frustrating. Anytime that my wife has gone to the hospital or needed something done or needed to go to the hospital for something, it's like they don't understand, insulin or insulin pumps or, eating carbs or sugar or anything. And it's like they're just not educated that well on it. The doctor that we had gone to, he was, he didn't really offer advice as far as, what we need to do or not do with our blood sugars, like, and how much insulin we take and all that stuff. He just said, hey, you know your body better than I do, so just take care of it. And that's the way that I've always managed my diabetes. I mean, I'm a numbers person, and I just make sure that I'm doing everything I can to keep my blood sugar in range. And that's not to say that I have times when I get high and times when I get low. For the most part, I do pretty good. So I was on injections from when I was first diagnosed in December of 2002 until June of 2007. And that's when I got my first insulin pump. My wife had had one for several years, and it was working great for her. I didn't want to be connected to something. I didn't want to have another, a piece of equipment that was constantly on me, and another thing I had to deal with. But I decided to do it because I thought it would, it'd be much better for my blood sugars. I could manage it a lot better. Plus, I was getting to where, my long-term insulin, I was using so much of that, I was kind of hitting the upper limits. And my doctor advised that I go on an insulin pump to alleviate that issue. In June of 2007, I got my first Medtronic pump. It was great. I mean, went from I was probably taking 5 or 6 shots a day to just doing one infusion set every 3 days, 2.5, 3 days. And that was wonderful. I mean, I never really had a problem with syringes or taking shots, and it was hardly ever painful. I remember it hurting a bit when I started doing infusion sets. Switching, all of those injections to just one infusion set every 3 days was wonderful. And I was on that Medtronic pump for a long time, and I never wanted to upgrade to a different pump because I loved the pump. It was great. It was an old I want to say it was a 722, Paradigm 722. And I had that pump from 2007 until November 2022, when I finally upgraded to a new pump. And I had switched from Medtronic I got a Tandem Slim pump. And my wife had upgraded to a Tandem Slim pump, and she had it for a few years. I didn't really like it. I didn't like that it had a rechargeable battery that you had to plug in every day, because my old pump just ran off a AA battery that I would change like every couple of weeks. And I didn't really like the infusion sets that were with the Tandem. I still don't like the infusion sets that are with the Tandem pump. Once I switched on it, my A1C, previously when I was in the Medtronic pump, they were all pretty decent. I was having A1Cs that were like in the low 7s, like 7.1, 7.2. I got on this new pump, and the first time I went and got my A1C done, I was at 5.6. And 5.6 A1C, that is like, that means you show no signs of diabetes. That's remarkable that this pump can help me manage my diabetes in a way that I can have an A1C that shows no signs of diabetes, type 1 diabetes. So I love the pump. I'm getting used to it now. The infusion sets I don't like. I will say that my diagnosis with type 1 diabetes was probably much different than a lot of other people's. I had already been living with my wife that had type 1 diabetes. We were used to living that life. As being married, we didn't know any different. That was just how it was. So when I got diagnosed and I was let out of the hospital, other than changes in diet and now having to take shots every day and checking my blood, other than that, I was just like back to normal. I remember the day after, I think it was the day after I got out of the hospital, we were doing some remodeling at our house, and my dad came over and he goes, "You sure you want to do this? You just got out of the ICU." And I go, "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go." I was adding like a whole floor. I was just ready to continue on with my life. I mean, we had the benefit of, I didn't need to learn anything really. I mean, I knew it all. There was no learning curve. Fast forward all those years, and then having my daughter get diagnosed last year, while it's devastating, I was more concerned about, what she was thinking or feeling, or what her life was going to be like having to deal with this disease. And for us as parents, we just knew what to do, really. There was no, we already knew. We knew what insulin did. We did need help from the doctors as far as, how much stuff we'd have to give her, and insulin-wise and stuff, because she just uses fractions of what I use, or fractions of what my wife uses. Like myself, when I was diagnosed, I think it's was a very similar situation for her, in that we knew she had parents that already knew how to manage the diabetes, and within a few months we had it down. And that's not to say that we have struggles here and there, and we're continuing to have to make adjustments because she's growing, and she requires more and more insulin and becomes more and more active. As much as it is a devastating thing to have to deal with and learn, it worked out, I think, good. We were in a good situation, and probably the reason why that we all needed each other to survive this disease and manage it and thrive in it.